Hello and welcome to this week's Ref Show. We've got Glenn Turner joining Mark Halsey in the studio this week. Plenty to discuss. As ever, the politics, and believe me, there is a lot of politics behind the great offside debate that's taking place. We'll be looking into that with our two experts. Those really tight offside calls, right or wrong. We've seen some instances of those, one involving Wayne Rooney at the weekend. The penalty that should have been given, that wasn't, and the comeback referee in the Premier League who shows that all's well that ends well. Mark, well, I thought you were just holding up the board these days, but actually you've got a shirt.
We have, yeah.
Signed by some Premier League referees, which is going to be a competition prize. So that's in the second half of the show, folks. Chance to win that signed shirt. You need to get some questions in, though, in order to win it. We'll come to that later. Right, let's kick off. First and foremost, John Terry. Right or wrong, Mark Clattenburg, Jose didn't seem too happy. This was in Chelsea's win at West Brom.
No, I don't think Chelsea or Jose or John Terry can have any complaints whatsoever. It's what you call a textbook nailed-on sending off for a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity or a clear goal-scoring opportunity. If you look at Mark's positioning, you look at his fitness, he's right there. Great decision to give. Not because it could have been easy to give a penalty if he was quite some distance back, but he's right there. He's right on top of it. No hesitation, red card. And it's when you look at it, you look at we go to the West Ham Bournemouth game where we had Jenkinson sent off.
This is John Moss. This is
Bournemouth
winning at West Ham.
Yeah,
4-3,
and then a couple of weeks before you had Courtois sent off against Swansea with Michael Oliver. And when you look at the differences between the three instances, you look at it and you think, you look at Courtois, the ball's, he's played the ball away from goal, the ball's going away from goal, so that gives a little bit of element of doubt into the referee's mind. John Moss with Jenkinson, the same. The ball comes across the area, it then it's going towards the D on the penalty area, defenders coming round. Once again, there is an element of doubt, but you wouldn't criticise the referees for making that decision and showing him the red card. And the one with Mark Clattenburg is, he's heading towards goal, he's going to regain control of the ball, he's going to have a clear shot on goal, absolutely nailed on red card.
Did you see it that way as well, Glenn?
Yeah, fabulous decision. And once again, Mark Clattenburg, he just reinforces his position as our country's lead referee. He's our number one referee, has been for a while now.
Right, no doubts whatsoever from you guys on that one, the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. So let's come on to penalties and these key calls as well. This was Neil Swarbrick at Sunderland and Swansea, 1-1 draw, and a really key incident. Come to you first, Glenn, on that. Jack Rodwell hitting a shot that hit Ashley Williams on the arm, which he seemed to move towards it. How did you see? No penalty given.
Tough call for me, Alan. The interest in your sentence, your call on it, hit him on the arm, but he seemed to make a movement towards the ball. And I think that perfectly sums it up. Did it hit him, or did he make a movement towards it? Difficult call for me. One of those, and it is a cliche, but you get a room full of referees and half will give it and half won't.
You seem well placed to give it, but I know you want to pick him up on body language there.
Yeah, they're always told about it. The cameras watch everything we do. There's so many cameras there, and Neil, okay, he's not giving it, fine, but don't indicate that his arms are down. His arms are down because his arms weren't down. It clearly shows he's made a movement towards the ball. So for me, it has to be a penalty. But if he's not going to give it, don't make that arm movement because it makes you look silly, doesn't it, in front of the cameras?
Yeah, he's overselling the decision, really, which he doesn't need to do. He's made the decision. He doesn't have to stand and explain it to everybody. He's made the decision. Let's carry on.
Made the decision. Carry on. Let's get out of it.
In fairness, as you said, it was a difficult call, and it was the only one, I think, that we've got to discuss from that game. So we've got to be fair to Neil Swarbrick on that. As we have to Martin Atkinson, this was also a 1-1 draw. This was Leicester Spurs. This was an incident in the penalty area. It was one of those kind of holding incidents. This was Vertonghen and Mahrez. Leicester should have had a penalty in some opinions. What did you?
Yeah, absolutely nailed on penalty for me. That, short of putting a big neon sign above it saying, Martin, this is a penalty, I don't know how much clearer he wants it. That's a penalty kick.
Yeah, it is. Mightn't be disappointed. He'll be disappointed he's got that wrong because I think he's had an outstanding start to the season. The first two games he's refereed, but looking at it, I can see how Martin has not given a penalty because as a referee, you have your eyes trained when there's players in the box and going to make a challenge, your eyes are focused on the ball. So I think he thinks that Vertonghen's come through and played the ball because the direction of the ball goes the way that Vertonghen's making that challenge. But, you know, in real time, I can understand why Martin's not given that, but when you look at it in slow-mo, as everything is easy, sitting in the armchair, it is a penalty. But I can understand how Martin's got that wrong.
One straight out the referees' union book for me. That one, Mark. Well done. The point I would add.
He goes to bed reading it. You know, it's his bedtime reading.
The question I would add is, bearing in mind the position of the penalty area where the foul took place, what was the assistant doing?
Well, yeah,
it's on his side.
It is, but the referee's in a great position. He's right there, and you know.
But just because the ref's in a great position, it doesn't dissolve your responsibility as an assistant. You can still help.
You can. You still help. But I mean, you run the line to me many times, and I know you wouldn't come in there with me, and you would.
I wouldn't come in with a big flag. I might have a word in your ear and say, "I reckon I've seen. What do you reckon, Mark?"
But he's dug me out of the hole many times. So if he came into me and said to me, "Right, that's
Talk about being in the deep end. I've heard tales of these two swimming at 2 o'clock in the morning on foreign trips. That's a story for another day.
What goes on tour stays on tour. We're athletes, yeah.
Well, this was the pre-programme chat, folks. We'll get him to talk about it sometime.
As I say, Mike was in a great position, but I can understand how he's got that wrong. But he's got it wrong.
Let's come on to, Glenn, your speciality. This is offsides. We've got two really key incidents, and they were hairline calls. Manchester United 0, Newcastle 0, only 0-0 because Wayne Rooney had a goal disallowed by assistant referee Lee Betts early on. Right or wrong?
Look, what I'm not going to do is sit and castigate Lee for what is an extremely difficult decision. Look, that's a goal for me. That's a goal for me. And I was a tad disappointed to hear and read some of the things that I've read by some recently former top referees to say that, no, that is clearly offside. If you want to use stills to try and prove your point, do make sure that you use the still at the point where the ball has actually been played. Because a nanosecond later, of course, you can make the decision look the correct one. For me, it's an incorrect decision, but it's not a decision where I think Lee Betts should be hung out to dry.
Craig Pawson was refereeing, it wasn't his call.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with Glenn. I wasn't a good assistant referee. I was on the line for about one season. They moved me off into the middle. But I mean, this guy knows what he's talking. He was a top jaw assistant referee. But you look at Lee's decision. That is a tough call. Now you look at that decision, and then you go back to Monday night Liverpool-Bournemouth with Harry Leonard. Now that is an easy decision. That is a huge error. That's the difference between two. Lee's one was very tough to call those because it's so quick in the Premier League. Whereas that one was, for me, was so easy. It was easy. So that's the difference.
We'll come to this in the second half of the show. But bearing that in mind as well, Everton losing at home to Manchester City 2-0. Anthony Taylor, thought he had a good game. I watched that. But here we had Lukaku netting. And again, it was very tight, Glenn, wasn't it?
Well, hats off to Gary Bezic. What a decision. Well done, Gary. And does it need much more than that? Well, it deserves much more than that because that is a great decision, Gary Bezic. 100% concentrated to catch Lukaku. How much of his body was offside? Goodness me, a kneecap. What a fabulous goal.
And you're right, and that's where, as an assistant referee and a referee on these Premier League, select group Premier League games, you've got to be your awareness, your concentration levels, your mental focus has got to be right up there all the time. You cannot switch off, can you? You cannot switch off.
The moment you switch off, the game will come and bite you. It will bite you.
So hats off to Harry Leonard. It was a focal point with the Liverpool-Bournemouth game. Got that one wrong, but he came through okay. Yeah.
Not only because of what happened to him Monday night, but he's returning to the City, the home team, the biggest rivals of the club for whom he incorrectly allowed a goal to stand on Monday night. I mean, they just rack up the number of reasons why Harry was under such immense pressure.
Three more things to rattle through, really to rattle through. Old Trafford game, back to that. Janu Jazz diving? Not causing?
Well, no, I mean, we don't, in our term, it's simulation, deceiving the referee. And I can't understand, I would love to know how Craig Pawson doesn't see that as a yellow card and as a caution, because it's a disease in our game, it's a disease, and we need to eradicate it. And if we don't start acting on these acts of simulation with the right sanctions, then it's going to carry on.
Nods all round on that one. Nice to see Andre Mariner back, just briefly. Watford 0, Southampton 0. Well, easy one.
Easy one. Good. He's a good referee, Andre. He's a good referee. And
For whatever reason, Andre served his time on the naughty step, and it's great to see a very good referee and a really nice guy back doing what he does best.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do, because time has run out and we've come to half-time. There's not enough stoppage time in this first half, folks. I want to come to Keith Stroud in particular. It was a comeback game to the Premier League for him. He was involved in one very big incident. We'll talk about how he got there in the end and how that was to his credit. That was in the Crystal Palace-Aston Villa game. But especially in the second half, we'll talk about this whole area of offside with former World Cup linesman, it was linesman, I think, in those days, now assistant referee Glenn Turner, and with Mark Halsey. I'm off to my usual customary half-time rollicking in the meantime. Loads of teacup throwing. We'll see you for the second half.